So, motivation. This is going to be a video about how to obtain motivation and how to start motivation, So, I'm sure there's people struggling out there to obtain motivation. Some people ask me or themselves, how do I obtain motivation? It's pointless, and some people blame it on depression and anxiety or whatever the reason that stops them from obtaining motivation, which I clearly understand why people are coming from, and I totally understand that it's not easy to obtain motivation, especially with me, which I can totally understand. But this is what this video going to be about, and hopefully this will give a good starting point for some of you all, and to understand how to get that motivation back and what you could do, and a little bit talking about motivation itself, like what stopped us to begin with. So first of all, motivation. I'm just going to quickly explain to you and an idea what could stop us from causing motivation. We're all different people, and we all have different own thing going on in our lives, and sometimes we just get overstressed and overwhelmed, and sometimes when we have to do things but you just don't have motivation to do it because there's time for that, and sometimes you don't have the time to do other things because depending on what they are, you don't feel that there might be a reason to do them. There's like very less rewarding to doing them than doing other things that you might be doing. But let's say you want to obtain that motivation to do it, whatever it is that you want to do, but you don't have that motivation. So how do we obtain that motivation? Well, there's ways to obtain motivation, and they've got to remember that this is all depends on you, and you have to remember that the only person who can obtain a motivation is only yourself. There's no magic trick to it, and there's no such thing as miracle. So you have to remember this video is going to be a way to obtain motivation. It might not be like a mastermind motivation, or at least some mind-blowing tricks that I could give you, but it could give you a very good starting point that will help you in the future, or in tomorrow, or even right now. So just bear with me, okay? So then, let's start off by saying, like, how do we start motivation? How do we obtain it? Right. So, here's where it's a little bit tricky. Or at least you could try. What I would suggest as to start motivation is whatever you have to do, look at it. Let's give an example, right? Let's say you have a homework, okay, and you have a list of papers and you haven't even bothered to check them. I know it's not much, but let's just say you got a paper right in front of you, but you don't want to do it. Now, a good way to at least start doing something is at least, taking a good look at it. Rather than doing it, just pick it up and take a really good look at it. Just take a really good look at the paper and just see what could be you could do that you already understand, or what you couldn't do. I know it sounds very simple, not very helpful advice, but just taking a very good look at the paper of whatever it is that you have to fill in, or whether it's physical or interaction with virtual. Just take a look. There's nothing necessary you have to do. So that's probably one advice I could give on motivation, is by at least picking it up. You don't have to do them by just picking them up. Do not get an idea thinking that just simply picking up means you have to do it. Give your brain to process what you've been given. Look at the things that you've been given and just take a look at it. There's no need to do anything. That's my advice right now. I know it sounds not very helpful, but it's a good starting point, because once you could take a good look at it, you have a clear understanding of what you're dealing with. Okay, now you understand what this is about, and now ask yourself, could I do this? Is there anything that I could do this right now that could be you know, productive. You know, anything at all, even the easiest one, if that helps. Okay, this is an example of homework. Okay, this could be many used in different scenarios. An example, you just have to take a look at it and ask yourself, what could you do in that situation? It's not hard, is it? Just imagine it doing it, right? But once you're in that moment, in that, you know, in motion, you maybe consider at least doing something, right? Once you're there, you might just start doing it. It could come in handy. But if you don't have that motivation and you still don't know where, you know, what's the point of starting this if I already picked it up and I don't feel motivation at all, Max, then we're going to do another idea. Which, like I said, this is going to be a little bit different motivation, which is still going to be doing something practical. So, this time, forget about looking at what you had to do. This is going to be a little bit different motivation tactic that we're going to work on. Now, like I said, if you want to get motivated again and you want to be somewhere in the future that could maybe make you motivated in some places that you want to be in, or at least get that motivation back, then this advice might help you better. So, right, motivation. How else can we obtain motivation? How about this? The thing we don't do about motivation, the thing we do about motivation is that depending on what it is, we're capable of doing, right? And depending on what it is, we don't feel like we want to do them. Sometimes we don't do anything. So instead, my advice would be on this is starting something very, 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 very basic. Something so basic that even a child could do. I know you might be saying, Max, why would I do that? I might be doing everything in daily life, something very simple and everyday. But that's because you're stuck on your brain, you know? It's a process that you already been doing for whole your life, but you never get that idea of using the purpose of a motivation. You're just being very used to it. Now, in this purpose, you're going to be doing something that could in fact help you into be motivated to do, because you might not even start it yet, but it gives you a purpose to start it. You know what I'm saying? So doing something already could give you a reason to start something new, and it could grow. So what I'm trying to say is that starting motivation could mean something practical that you could start doing as now or tomorrow or later. So instead of doing something like a homework, you know, because that's too hard, that's too complicated, there's too much words, I don't want to write, I'm not motivated, let's do something a bit more fun and simple. How about we start doing something very, very simple that anyone could do. So for example, let's say cleaning your room. Okay, it might not sound very motivating, right? But it's something you can already do. It's very easy, right? You just have to start doing something and force yourself to do it by doing the most simplest task of all. I know it sounds really, you know, not ideal, but at least you know that's the goal to reach your motivation. Why did I bring that up in that criteria? You know, why clean the room? Well, for example, your room is going to be clean, you know. At least you'll be satisfied looking at your room like tidy and clean. And also the fact that, you know, you will feel accomplishment. And based on that, you know that you'll be motivated to do something very simple and easy and that anyone could do. You could also start making a motivation to start a new hobby. You know, for example, for me, I started playing chess and that was my new hobby, and I become addicted to chess because even though I'm not good at it, I like it. It's making your brain process, it motivates you to keep playing, and the fact that I tried something, it shows me that I'm making progress, you know? Maybe you could start maybe, I don't know, like say, maybe apply a job once a day. It might sound a bit challenging because, you know, there's some jobs that you might not get or you might get, but at least just do one job apply each day. If that's too hard, don't worry, forget about what I just said. Let's move on to something else. Maybe how about go outside for a walk. I know it sounds very, you know, boring and simple, but here's the idea. You're motivating to yourself to do something, even the simplest thing. And after when you complete doing that and doing it and doing it, you realize how much easy it is to accomplish something to get that satisfaction. And that's where you start to understand the motivation behind what driven you to be motivated, and that motivation could give you a purpose to complete something and get that satisfaction even greater. So starting from something very simple and then starting for something a little bit harder could give you a ladder. The hard part is the very starting point, and that's some people don't quite get very often. So once you get the idea of doing something every day, or something to do every day, or something that could at least give you a feeling of doing every day, you become motivated to start something new. And whatever you got used to, you can progress it up and up. So in the future, you could just look at your homework and be motivated to do that. Maybe it might be not right away, but you can at least do something very simple to at least somehow to look after yourself and accomplishment for it. You got to remember, like I said in the start of the video, to obtain motivation, you need to put effort into understanding how to obtain the motivation. Motivation doesn't just simply come out of the window to your house just like that. You have to find a purpose to be motivated. You have to find what you need to be motivated to do something else. If you don't have motivation because you got anxiety, fear, or stress, then just start doing something very small. Small things is always good to grow on that motivation, and once you grow, you can do better. I learned that many things from mine. I started eating breakfast every day. I started to shower every day. I started to stream every day because that's something that became a hobby. I started to play chess very often and frequently, and and I need to go back and reading that book, but it's not because don't want to read the book, but because my anxiety reading about the book, because the book is based on anxiety, and I have anxiety reading the book because anxiety. So I have to think, how am I going to overcome this book? So how am I going to able to read this book with a motivation at least to do it? But because of my anxiety, I don't know how to obtain a motivation. So I have to come up with something simple, something easy. So instead of reading the book, I'm going to work out. That's what I've been doing for the past 2 days. That I'll be working out. It might not be, helping me with anxiety, but it makes me feel good about my, working out. It makes me like I'm achieving something rather than, not doing what I'm meant to do in the first place, which is reading the book about it, because it helps me, but it makes me scared. So instead, I'm working on my physical stuff, doing something differently, or finding a different motivation to do something will always give you a reason to get better. Starting doing small things will help you progress, and you'll give you a clear idea of where you could go in the future. So it gives you more purpose to be motivated, not necessarily the same thing, but it gives you wider choices of what you could be motivated. But if the homework is the biggest problem that you could be doing, because homework could be a priority, then you have to start somewhere small and grow in it, and hopefully that will lead you to do the motivation on this, because then you understand how you obtain motivation and how it could make you feel accomplishment from it. It's not easy to get that motivation back, but at least you could start it and do something about it. I understand some of you probably struggling and you're probably stressing, but you can do it. You can do it. Simple things too. Very simple things. There's no need to do anything difficult. Just do what you believe that in your compatibility that you able to do and grow at the same time. And you have to remember, to do this you have to work on yourself. Don't rely on other people to do your motivation for you. Trust on yourself and work on yourself alone, and you will get that motivation back. Okay? People will be looking to be motivated for other people, because some people feel like they feel better talking about their problems rather than, not saying like mental problems, I'm talking about general problems. Like, let's say I can't do my homework, blah blah blah. So instead, try work on yourself and try and see where you could do better at where you could lead to, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my advice on motivation, and like I said, it's not easy to obtain it, and this video is solely on how to get motivation started. Wherever it goes from there after this video, or how you chose to do your motivation, to do simple things and to grow and to find a next reason to be motivated, will be for you to decide. And I hope that you can decide what's best for yourself rather than rely on other people based on your motivation, because motivation is something that you have to work on yourself and nobody can do that for you, and you have to remember that. I'm not talking about this as a mental illness or anything, because mental illness definitely could be helped somehow in one way or another, but motivation is something that you have to understand that only you can do this and only you can do better. Okay, you gotta remember that, and have trust in yourself when doing those things. The more you have better understanding how to accomplish the simplest thing, the more understanding you will gain in how motivation could make you do other things. Just need to make your brain to work reversed rather than how it usually works. Hopefully this video helps you, and I apologize if this video has not been very, helpful, because I can understand that you were hoping something would maybe get you motivated, at least in a better way. But based on my experience and based on what I learned from online, because I do my research, at least if you want to do online research on how to be motivated, or at least hear someone who's you could be inspired to, then that could be a good way to be motivated. It's very simple, just look up to someone and see why you should be worked out. So, have respect for yourself and respect everything you do with that motivation, and take pride in what you do to help yourself, because everything you do to get to that point in the future will come and help. You just have to push yourself to do it, even with the simplest thing. And I hope this video will help you somehow, or at least get you to start something. Don't lose the hope of motivation, because that's the last thing you want. I hope this video helps you, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure you like and sub, and as always, thank you so much for watching this, and yeah, thank you again. Take care, and as always, see you in the next video, whatever the topic's gonna be about. Good luck.